Rusty's he's probably outside the door. I've just locked him out. So I'll bring him in later when we're done. Yeah, merry nearly Christmas, everybody. I'm just going to limit this this stream to sub-only comments at the minute because we haven't done enough on Twitch yet to limit the views on Twitch anyway to subs only. And it's Christmas Eve, so I figured for the intro to this video, we'll let anybody watch this one, but only subs can comment. And then obviously the next ones of these will be sub-onlys, all what we're about to do with this. I don't know whether YouTube actually allows me to prevent comments from members only. I think it's subs and members, so either way we'll have some extra chat. It just won't show on screen. And to be honest, a lot of people won't be on with it being Christmas Eve. So what we're doing here, you can see I've just literally just gone and grabbed a load of these from the garage. These are ones that are too bad to use and sell. We've got tubs full. This is exactly like what we had with the Game Gear. We had literally hundreds of Game Gears that were just too corroded and bad. I mean, you can see straight away on this one, you know, you can't sell this to a customer in good faith, even if you repair it. So as soon as we took the back off these, it's like, yeah, put them in a pile. Some, I can only presume these don't work. These will be useless because these are blob chips, so these are just cobs, basically the original silicon under here, going to solder points. But I figured we'd get this just to make sure the PCB layouts are the same. Got another one here. Again, these are all in the pile of can't use. Don't know why. This is just what Zach will have grabbed and something on them doesn't work. So they've ended up in like a big pile of to diagnose or to fix. So a lot of these will be great for donors, basically, for this new RePCB we're making. This one looks probably the cleanest. I did grab one that would clean, so we can use this as the initial one to scan. And then I've got a front board as well, just so we can make sure we've got like alignment and collision fits. So you're basically going to see the process of how we make the entire RePCB. And then you guys can make it, sell it if you want. It's part of being a member. You get to see how I make stuff and make it yourself if you want. So this won't be, I doubt we'll get too far into actual PCB design today because there's a lot of prep work to do. So yeah, glass always falls out. It's the original tree sap glue that hardens over the years and then falls out. Right then, what shall we do? Yeah, that's actually a good point as well. It kind of gives people that aren't subs. I might do it every now and then, just like open up the sub only. See, the other thing I thought with the sub only stuff is because you're never going to get new subs if you're only doing sub only streams to subs, if you get what I mean, is maybe either every now and then just opening it up for viewing for maybe half an hour, then we go on and limit it after. Or doing like some way limiting where they can see but can't comment, but you also kind of don't want them seeing what you're doing as such. It's one of them. It's like, I think sub only for the lives, or maybe I just start editing after I've done some lives and posting like clips and snippets of the live feeds for non-members. I think that's probably the way to go. It's just a bit more work. Is a way to combine the regular onto the new RePCB. The regular, what regular? Yeah, what regular thing are you meaning there? To be honest, I actually don't know where. I don't know what regular part. Right, let's get started. Oh, the regulator board. Yeah. So one of the things I'll do, because obviously I still have to run a business, is we could integrate this fully onto this board, and I can go one step further and integrate all this and this onto this and make a clean screen all at the same time and make one Uber board that screws into the back with just a connector for the cartridge and the audio. But for the subs, what we're going to see is how to remake this board pretty much as is. But one thing I already know we will do is we're going to make our own amp. We'll fix the headphones because these are known to have shit headphone output. So at least we'll do like a much better output. You're effectively going to see how we make a clean amp, let's face it, because we're going to remake the amp circuit. So you'll also be able to make clean amps yourself then if you want as well. So we'll upgrade the amp. Other than that, we'll keep this as stock as possible. So let's just start with figuring out what we need to do, or what I would do, basically. So the first thing I'd do, if I'm going to remake this board, is grab a bunch of variants first, make sure there's no differences, like we do with Game Gears and things. So if I pull focus, make sure it's nice and sharp. Think about there. This is one version. Obviously, we've got CPU B, CPU B. I know the CPU A. We don't even have a CPU A. I can always check as we go. But I've worked with loads of these, and I'm pretty sure the only two variants that have any like issues in a sense or differences is these. So you can clearly see you've got a CPU there. You can have work RAM, I think it is there, video RAM. I can't actually remember what the two RAMs are on this, to be honest. But there's two RAMs either way there, and an amp here. So they're obviously going to be the same things. This is not much use because, like I say, you can't take this off. So this is just for reference, really, making sure things are in the right position. The shells, there's only one because we make these. So I know for a fact this is only one version of shell and it fits all boards. So as long as our board fits in this shell, we know we're good anyway, really. That's the key thing. You've got to align up the wheel, the extension port, the DC jack. So there's some mechanical engineering things we need to consider, and mainly looking over the differences here. So looking at these, very simple design, really. Probably one of the simplest I've ever even considered doing, but obviously still quite complicated. It's still a full PCB, a full computer in a sense. So there's enough on here to give you a nice little intro to building the boards. Let's walk through the steps I think I'm going to do. First would be, like I say, this analysis here, which at a glance, I don't go too far in depth because we always review it as we're going. But I can kind of see these are the same physical dimensions. Using the knowledge I already have, I'm pretty sure there's going to be no differences between these boards. If there is, it's going to be minor. So we'll just basically pick a board, I think, and work from that to start with. You can always revise and figure things out as you go. And one of the things you need to do is not get too bogged down into trying to overthink this. Just get going. Build a board. If there's problems, fix them. So you want to do enough initial thought and plan your work out. But you need to just go for it, basically. That's one of the things I do a lot with the things I make. I go for it. I have an idea, I build it. For example, this thing here is, I haven't had time to fix it yet. Clean light for the Game Boy Color. You can see a load of new circuitry here to try and remove some noise. That's not worked at all in any way, which is kind of disappointing. And I haven't had time to debug it yet. But the good thing is now, oh, thanks for subbing. Give me the confidence to take apart the GameCube and get it working. Nice one. That's how you get going. Like I say, just get stuck in. So this is an example. I made this board. I've added a load of new features. So decoupling every single LED all the way up. Adding a larger power source up here because it's further away. Adding extra caps here. I've got a special designed filter circuit here that I made, very accurately spec'd with the right components. Moved a I've added a reflection resistor here. There's like loads I've done basically to try and remove the noise that you get. You basically get a slight noise. So Big Bro will know about this on the GBA. The noise I'm on about, that's a slight sort of, just a slight hiss that goes when you turn the lights off. Nothing too bad that it's not usable, but it's there. And it's from these LEDs. And it's not the Raspberry Pi, because I've got the clean screen, it doesn't add noise. It's none of these. It is literally these LEDs that internally pulse themselves for brightness. You can't control that. These have a little microcontroller in. Their noise is going backwards into circuits. So I designed this circuit. Instead of making a mini circuit and testing, I just built the whole board. Now it doesn't get rid of the noise, but I have a board that fits in, that I can test everything else works, that I can also then take stuff off and mess with. So don't be worried about just making products and then they don't work. You can always then use this, figure it out, and make the next one, basically. Made every piece of hardware with our name and brand on I've made. And this is what you're going to see if you sub. So this is obviously the only one you'll see if you're not a sub. Because, well, I'm a member on YouTube and a sub on Twitch, because these are sub-only streams. I've just decided, because it's Christmas, everybody can watch this one. But what we're going to do is remake this Game Boy. So we're going to remake a Game Boy original and remake this board. So first step is analyze the differences. We're pretty much happy that we're going to say this should be good enough for every Game Boy. You can just take off the CPUs. Then I want to think about, we'll have to strip this board down and scan it. So we have a nice flat board that we can scan, lay out, and just pull the positions of critical components. That's an easy one. So we'll do that in a minute. We'll probably start stripping this board down. But I'm going to think about how much do we want to keep original and what are we going to change. So we mentioned this power board. I already sell a clean power here. I don't necessarily want to cut too much into my sales and put this on the board, even though we can. But you guys will understand enough after you've made this to be able to make a power board as well. This doesn't even need to exist. This can just be fit onto this board quite easily. We could fit the circuit here. We could move this over here and fit the power there. There's many things we could do, but we could definitely fully integrate the power board onto this if we wanted. For this one, we're not going to. Just going to take this off and we'll pass the same pins here. Springs I already make, so I can get them from my factory and I could sell them to you guys if you wanted to build your own. I think we even maybe do sell them. We stopped selling them, but I'll probably sell them again. These PCB battery springs. Headphone port is basically a passive headphone port. It's the 4 pins. It's got some resistance caps here, but we're going to scrap that, put them on this board, and we'll just have a carrier board that has a headphone jack on and 4 pins. Considering we're making this port, we might as well put an FPC connector. So something like this. We might as well have a ribbon connector, no solder, and then down here, the headphone jack would be, say, here, and this would be a ribbon going to here. That's what we'll do there. So that's an immediate thought of what we're going to do. The only other change I thought, and this is where we probably need feedback, I thought of this as I've literally looked at it just. Old DC jack that no one wants to use. We obviously want to support it because we have a hole for it. But what do we think about having a dual footprint? So you can either install one of these, or we'd have to source one from like an obvious place so that you can actually, you know, because some of these like this exact port might be hard to find, but now we're making the PCB, we can make a port that fits and aligns perfect. But why don't we also put a USB-C pad so that the USB-C either going to be like a double carrier board like this, that kind of, it might need to be where you've got the footprint for this to sit on. So if we take this off, you'd have like 3 pads where this needs to solder through, which are these here. Well, 4 pads. They might be in the way then if we tried to fit a USB correctly. So we might need a second little carrier board with a USB-C that maybe sits above so it aligns up here. So I'm pretty sure it will have to be. It's going to have to be like a thick PCB and then some pads wherever fit, because we can have this board hovering here and put like pads wherever we want to then effectively have an optional USB board. So I think that will be a separate mini project. But when we're designing this PCB, we'll put some pads somewhere where you can then effectively make an add-on board that sits at the right height. So it aligns perfectly with this on the USB. And then we'll probably just have to, looks like we just have to widen the hole one way. So probably just a 3D bracket and drill 2 holes. And then you've got USB-C here. That then might make the clean juice for this, the clean juice AA. We might just make it support the RePCB with a USB here. Because the other thing with the clean juice AA for the GBO is it's going to be quite difficult to have the USB sticking out from somewhere because there's no support for it mechanically. So it's going to be a bit of a challenge. But either way, that's something we'll consider. But I think what we'll do is, we know it's possible. We know we can have a carrier board, and we almost definitely want a second PCB due to the height issue. You don't want the USB sitting flat. You don't want a specialized USB that has to sit really high up. It's too expensive. You want to keep it simple. So I think USB-C will be a future add-on to that, but we'll pre-add the pads to the first board. So we get, you know, you can use this as almost an example. It won't have to be this wide because these are buttons we don't need. But we know we want pads somewhere around this area, I'd say. Not by the screw hole, so somewhere here and here probably for like ground, power, and maybe an insertion detection that we can do. So there's that to consider there, but that won't change much. We can ignore it for now and add the pads when we want. That's not a problem. Extension port's just going to have to be swapped off. This could be a mini HDMI in future, or this could be a USB port and we could get rid of the extension, but people do use extension for like Pokemon trading, so we don't really want to remove that. I think just keep that exactly as is. Wheel here, again, because we're going to be remaking the amp, we are in control of what this pin out of the wheel is. We don't care about that now. But we do want the height and thickness. So the height and thickness of this, if we get, I knew I was going to drop everything. If we get my vernier and we measure the thickness of that wheel, It's going to be probably 3mm looking at it. Yeah, 3mm wheel. So all we need to care about is a 3mm and probably 16mm as the average. Yep, so it's a very common 16mm, 3mm thick potentiometer wheel. So because these are so common, I'll show you how you find these pretty much straight away. If we pull this up, go on AliExpress, type in volume, doesn't even have to be volume wheel, 16mm, 3mm, and you'll find it's a fairly common, maybe not volume wheel, then let's try potentiometer. There you go. So fairly standard and common. You can get grey. Ooh, grey's nice. What do we think about grey? Well, it's an option, isn't it? That'd be quite nice. A grey wheel. Yeah, I mean, I guess we can just provide, you can either provide the wheel with the kit when we sell them, and you can solder in the black or the grey. I think we might do that maybe, because grey would look nice on here to blend in. There. I mean, it's not a massive change, but that'd just be a nice thing. But yeah, they're easy to find. We don't care about the values of the wheel because we're in control of the audio circuit, but it's not hard to find. They're normally called like BK10s or something like that. Where's the name that you'll normally see straight away? You watch now. I know it's dead easy find. I won't find the writing of what it is. There, B102. So that just means whatever the B is, it's standard. The 10 is 10K because it's 10 and then two more. Well, actually, that's a 1K because there's two more zeros. Yeah, 1K. So you get B102, which is 1K, B103, which is 10K. You get 16 by 2, which is a bit thinner, 16 by 3. So they're not going to be a problem to source anyway. That's as far as we need to take that. We'll be able to find a wheel there that fits easy. Crystal, that might need to come off. We need to find out what speed the crystal is. Is that a concern right now? Not really, because we can either take the crystal off or we can find one. Ideally, I like to find as many components as possible and get them added at factory, basically. Yeah, we're going to strip this board down and fully remake it, basically, and improve it. That's what literally the goal of this is. I've been thinking about a pink volume wheel. Yeah, you can. I'm sure I could get these volume wheels in all colours. And then, like I say, this is the start. You guys will see how to make the initial RePCB. So that means the first one's going to be open source. And then I'll probably add all my enhancements after to sell, like integrating a clean screen, maybe some logic. You know, I'll go further. But this is going to be a really good way of getting you guys into electronics. Right, so crystal we'll look at later. We know it's, again, all it'll be as a footprint change or both footprints, like on the RePCB, where you can have the original crystal, which I think I've got. I've got the next version of the RePCB already made somewhere here. Where is it? Which I haven't had a 2-chip in since then. But this is the next version. Yeah, so on here, for example, I've got the original crystal pads here, and then I've got a crystal on here, and then the option to remove a resistor. So you can pick between the crystals. We'll probably have something similar on this. We'll have pads for the original, and if we can, we'll find a crystal. I made this, so I had to make 20,000 of these for the Game Gear because nobody makes a 32.215 megahertz, I think it is, crystal. So I had to make 20, and I'm not joking when I say I had to make 20,000 of these. I had to go to a crystal factory and have an entire run made for me. So I'll have these till the day I die. I don't really want to make 20,000 crystals for the Game Boy. I'm hoping it's a common enough frequency we can get it, or I could chuck on a Raspberry Pi for £1 and make a crystal if the frequency is within a range I can simulate accurately, which then I guess leads to overclocking. We could technically overclock the system and tweak the frequency and do all kinds of things if we're in control of the clock. Again, thinking not on this first board, but already this is what I tend to do. I'll think about the first board and I'll think about what I'll add to a pro board or a future board. A Raspberry Pi on here, tapping into these pins so we can custom bootload. We can have a custom, you know, like when you turn the Game Boy on and you see Nintendo come down, we could easily, very easily, completely control that logo and turn on and have Big Bro written on screen if you wanted your own logo. You could literally do stuff like that. Do we add that to this first board though? Because that'd be pretty sick. And it allows us to preload games on So we could have a Raspberry Pi that uploads games and it's effectively a ROM cart. You could have the USB port here then connected to the Pi so you can upload games from the USB port. There's so much. See, this is what happens though. You go, there is absolutely tons we could do with this, and it's such an easy console to work on. That would be, but this is where I like to think, start little, start with your original and put your pro features to the side for a pro version. But there's another possibility. Raspberry Pi sitting here communicates with this. It could even replace the RAM completely. So there's another thought. This RAM will probably be about £1.60 to buy both. With enough work, which again, you don't want to start with because you're going to complicate the project. You could replace these two and the Crystal entirely with a single Raspberry Pi that acts as the Crystal, dual RAM, and it can load games and do, there's a huge potential there for future. So that would be a pro feature. I think definitely the Pro is going to have a Pi on, and we can do some crazy stuff with it. Game loading without a cartridge. It's endless. You can go somewhere further with that. So for now, let's ignore that. Just keep that to one side, the thought of like integrating this and the Pi. Let's focus on this. So RAM, I can get from factories. I can almost guarantee I'll get what's called new old stock. So I'll be able to source these and have them pre-installed. If not, customers can transfer them over. And then morning chat, welcome in. Got some new people popping up. It's not actually showing, so maybe this is open at the minute to non-subs. So if you're not popping up on screen, I presume you're not actually subbed. So this is a sub-only stream, but I've kept it open for everybody else. But if you want to see this actually being built, then you definitely need to become a member on YouTube or sub on Twitch to see the rest of it. I think for the Crystal, again, we'll tackle that. The idea is to overview it all like we're doing, get some thoughts in ahead, and then start tackling it. And once we get to certain steps, we'll rethink about what we did. But I think the Crystal's going to be... has anybody looked up the frequency of this Crystal, by the way? And maybe checked on DigiKey or AliExpress for similar crystals? And is it even a crystal or an oscillator? It's got to be a crystal because it's 2-pin. So it's not an oscillator. So we're dealing with a crystal, which... The problem with the crystal, as we know on the Game Gear, you can't just replace it because this is driving the crystal inside. So this has got the crystal circuit inside. It's not an oscillator, it's a crystal. So we can't just make our own. We can't have a Raspberry Pi controlling the clock because this is trying to drive this. Like maybe we can. It might be harder to do, but this is going to attempt to drive this and self-oscillate through a phase lock loop system. So I think we are stuck to having the crystal what it is. It's written there. 4.1943804 megahertz. So if you go to DigiKey, type in crystal, click a first link to get to the crystal section. Better open that door case nobody else is getting the gates. You can see if there's anything close. You've got to pretty much be accurate to that, otherwise the system's not going to run the same speed as it actually does. Let me check if anyone's opened the gates. Yeah, they're open, cool. So crystal, that's that. RAM, I know I can source because we don't want them put on. Now the amp, normally I'd say you want to keep the amp for like authenticity sometimes, but the audio is usually, in my eyes, the CPU is the thing making the audio. And if the amp can't generate it as clean as it could, making it cleaner, in my eyes, is an improvement, not necessarily removing the authenticity. I don't think people are going to be too sad if we remove this amp, fix its imperfections, which is a really bad voltage level and noise on the headphones, making the speaker already loud enough so we don't need a clean amp. So I think we'll just completely gut the audio circuit and remake it. That's what we're going to do. Nice DigiKey, so that's available. Let me have a quick look. See if that is the one. That'll be a nice thing, because crystals are normally one of them things that are hard to get. To be honest, it wasn't that bad making the custom crystal. I had to make 20,000, but I think they only cost me, a couple of £1,000, which I suppose is, to be honest, I think I'm just getting too used to spending a lot of money. That's probably quite a lot of money on a single component, but let me divide that by, just check if it was right. I could get this sheet up. Yeah, it sounds about right. I paid about 10 to 20 cents a crystal. So yeah, it was a couple of grand. So I can have any crystal made for like £2,000 roughly. So, crystal 4 meg. That's only 4 meg, so it's got to be really accurate. It's got to be 4. Like at minimum, it'd have to be 4.194. Ideally, you want the full spec. So let me have a quick look while we're here. Frequency. There we are. I'll put it up over screen anyway. So just inside of DigiKey, crystals and oscillators, crystals, and then here we can look at the megs. Let's have a look. So you got 4.194. There you go. 4.194.304. There we go. So it is on there. Maybe you just pasted the wrong key. So we have the exact frequency. Let's check the price and stock. And if not, even if they're not on DigiKey, sometimes the factories in China can source them for you. Yeah, there you go. Easy. I won't be paying 38 pence. I'll get these from China for like 5p. But there's a crystal. So that's the part number 1. That's probably the exact crystal as well. If we looked at like the footprint. To pull up this footprint, see what it is. Pitch 4.88. This crystal, flip over. So it's these 2 pins here. And then, where is it? Those 2 pins, I think it was. Yeah, so that's going to be the same. So these 2 pins here, you can see it says it's 4.88, so about there. And you can see hovering over the center of them 2 pins. That's literally the same footprint. So we can put a single footprint in for that crystal. And we can either use the original or you transfer it over. Doesn't matter, basically. So I'll paste this in to chat. There we go. Where do I source consoles for business? All over. Sometimes we buy off customers. Other times we get from eBay. Other times we get from Jaws, Sendico, Mariko. Basically all like second-hand eBay style markets or customers. I also have a few contacts that have been in the business longer than I have that I'll buy bulk from sometimes. Is this a RePCB for the SP? No, this is a Game Boy original. We can make one for the SP, but we're going to start with this. And also we're making this for the sub-only stream, so you're going to get to see this entire thing. And to be honest, we probably won't open source this in a sense. What I'll do is make a GitHub repo for the subs, so the subs get invited to it manually, and then you guys can see. Or do you think we just open source this so that people can see it, and if they wanted to learn how to make it, they then go on the wiki, then they sub to the channel. I don't know. I like open source it. I think we open source it. Shall we open source it? But then, if you want to see how it was made, you have to become a member, basically. Otherwise, you don't want to get too limited and become a channel that only does things for money, kind of thing. The fact that you guys are, subbing to watch this is enough. Right, so amp we're going to replace. DC jack, we're going to have DC jack with the ability for USB in future. Extension port has to stay. Crystal we can get. RAM we can get. Wheel we can get. Now it's these 2. These are normally the 2 problems. Oh, connectors we can get for the power, the batteries. Power switch, I'm not too concerned about. I know from experience that if you want to find a switch, you can basically measure a few things. You can measure the throw. So start there in the center. So put your kind of vernier / calipers, this flat line here on the center of that switch. Flick the switch on, and then you want to try keep that one there, move that in to the center line, and then switch back. And what you're looking for is the center that's called the throw of the switch. You can see we've got a 5mm throw. So all I need to do on that, and I'll probably just ask my factory in China for this one and say, I need a single pole, single throw switch. So you can see there's only 3 pins. It's basically on or off. I just need a single pole, single throw switch with a 5mm throw. The height and thickness of this, we'll do some measurements. Chinese factories will find us this in half an hour. You can probably find this on AliExpress. You might find it on DigiKey. But that I know for a fact, because we're controlling the footprint, we're not going to struggle here whatsoever to find a 5mm throw switch. So I'm confident we can find that and add that as well. CPU we know for a fact we want to swap over. Do you keep buying consoles for business or current stock is enough? Oh no, I'm always buying. I've got loads and loads and loads of consoles. And in fact, over Christmas we ran out of Neo Geos, which I had 7 off. We've now sold another one on top of the 6 that we sold. I need one for myself, and we sold another one. Amiga 1200s went through the roof. I had loads of them in stock. I've still got loads of 500s and 600s no one's buying. I've got like 5 more of them each. But the 1200s, I'm literally buying to order. I can't buy them quick enough because I think I wiped out eBay of 1200s over Christmas. Everyone kept buying them maxed out. Other stuff, though, I'm actually starting to vlog a load of bulk. I've got literally hundreds/thousands of consoles that I will be selling in bulk just because the unknown states, I need to clear some space and make more space for new products and things. So I do try to keep the stock now a little bit more limited and buy in just ones that we know sell regular. Whereas at the minute I've got, for example, like 50 Mega Drive 1s, 30 Mega Drive 2s. We had a load of Xboxes we sold. I've got probably 10 2600, like loads of consoles that don't sell much that I've got loads of. I'll clear them off in like bulk sale and then buy them back a few at a time, basically, because you imagine keeping so many consoles, it takes a lot of room. Yeah, don't talk to me about Amigas. Trust me, I've been there with Amigas. You ever seen that 3x3 N64 repo board? Would be cool to see that made. No, don't even know what that is. I'll have to look it up. Right, so power switch audio, and that and them we're going to source, and them. So all them are kind of being sourced and put on. We're going to have to transfer CPU and extension port. This we never looked at, this DC jack, but again, I know we'll be able to source that, even if it's just the height. I'm confident we'll source that, so I'm not going to dig too much about that. Now, this is the next thing. Cartridge connector is going to be a big question. You can get repro GBA connectors. Can we get repro GBO connectors? Because this, if not, this doesn't actually look like high-speed injection molding. Otherwise, this is going to cost us thousands to make. And I don't want to have to ideally spend thousands on this project because it's not exactly super... I don't think it's going to be mega popular. The GBO is the least popular Game Boy that we sell personally. But yeah, high-speed injection molding, this would normally be a bit more... They basically mix metal in with it for strength. It doesn't. I know I do loads of injection molding stuff, but I'm no expert in saying for sure. But I'm almost confident this is standard plastic, not high-speed injection molding. But the problem with this is they'll lay these pins as part of the injection phase, maybe. So even so, having this made is probably costly and timely. So we ideally want to find this connector. Yeah, I could show you the... I think the game slot is high-speed injection molded. It is. So, so believe it or not, this is high-speed injection molded, and this has got metal inside of it. So this is why you see this bend a bit, and this deceptive-looking bend here. See how this looks curved? This isn't curved, believe it or not. You can literally put a flat rule on. You'd swear blind looking at it, he says. You can probably bend them and stuff, but coming out, this isn't bent. What it is this will bend up when you're injection molding due to the heat. But we added a taper to the actual flange so that the physical 3D model is tapered. So when it bends up, it stays flat, but looks bent, if you know what I mean. So it's a very confusing optical illusion that this looks bent in the center. But either way, this is... I might be wrong. I know we were going to high-speed injection mold this. But if you get like a GBA, that will be high-speed for sure. No, it isn't, not that one. SP, maybe. No, I haven't got one of those. Anyway, point is, there's something called high-speed injection molding where they put metal in, and it normally looks like a darker grey. And you have to typically do that for things with metal in and things that need to be really strong. So it's not always as simple as, well, I suppose injection molding isn't that simple, but we're getting down a rabbit hole there that we don't need to at the minute. Right, so let's have a look. I'm going to hunt. First place, strangely, I'm going to look for this is AliExpress. And I'm going to just put in like Game Boy cartridge connector. And you guys can have a look if you want. We're basically trying to find a Game Boy. I'm pretty sure you can get these cartridge connectors Worst case, what we could use is the GBA cartridge connector, GBA SP, and a riser board to set it high enough up, because they are physically the same connector. And I do have them somewhere, just not to hand. For GB, for GBC, original. Yes, that didn't take long at all. You can see straight away there's some on AliExpress, which means they'll be publicly available in the Chinese factories that I use. There we go, for original. See, that's £16, though. We're not going to pay that. I'd make molds if we were going to do that. But that does look completely exactly original. We don't necessarily need it to be exactly the same position and size and shape, because we're in control of the PCB. So they're expensive. We're not paying £10. I want to pay like £1 at most. So these are the ones I'm on about, where that's the SP one with a flat tab that's not high enough. And then the ones they're saying are for Game Boy and Game Boy Color. They're trying to sell them as Game Boy and Game Boy Color, but they won't fit just straight on the board. So they're selling them for one thing, but it's not usable because of the height. So we'll need like a thick riser like this, which could probably be a 3D printed bracket if we have to, and then sitting this connector on top of. So we'd have a mini PCB holding that connector in, then a flexible ribbon that connects to a flexible ribbon down here, which is not ideal. So we could do with sourcing the original, because we want to put the original pins in, so you can still use the original. But we also would like to be able to buy one that's off the shelf, save me having to make one. So they do sell them, because we've seen them here, for example, but the price is ridiculous. We're not paying, they're not paying that price. So I will probably ask my factory to look into that as well for me. There we go, £2. And 23 sold. Now, these are probably salvaged. Looking at them, they are not new. So they're just repurposed, so they're not much use, to be honest. We can't, I'll mass produce this 500 or 1,000 for the first batch. So there's no way I'm getting 500 of them will wipe out of stock. So it doesn't look like there is one made. You can see there's the connector we were after, probably. That's probably going to be the right size for the Game Boy. It says Game Boy Color, but again, going down a different rabbit hole there. No, so it looks like this is the only one that anyone ever produced, you see. This is like the mass-produced high-speed injection molded connector. So we could make use of this, and we probably will have to if we want to third-party this connector in a sense, which means we're going to have to make a little PCB with that on, and then have it sit on a 3D bracket that sits the right height, and then it'll be perfectly fine once you do that. So we'd have to make like this housing as a 3D model that comes up here and then is just a flat stump. So you can imagine all this plastic before the connector is just a 3D mold. And then this thing sits on top of that, but on a PCB, and the PCB screws into the 3D bracket. We'd have to make sure, if so, it's going to fit through this connector, because it's on the back of here. It would need to pass through this connector here and not hit any plastic. So that's still something we're going to have to think about. That's probably going to be the main contention point here. If we want to reuse this connector, if we don't want to reuse this connector and we want to be able to supply it pre-installed, that's going to be the thing. Worst case, the customer has to remove this. It's like that's what most other people would say. You just got to reuse the original. But I like to try and make it so everything's on the circuit board as much as possible. So the customer at the minute only has to put on the extension port and CPU. Everything else will come pre-installed. So that's the option there. I think that's one again. We'll consider that and we'll come to it. We know for a fact we want to put these pins on anyway, so we'll start with that. And while we're doing all that and making the boards, we'll consider, similar to the USB, we'll consider that we want future support for that. We can always add the footprints in no either. So we'll put the original footprints on for the connector to start with. We'll do, yeah, I think that's it really. We'll put the original footprints on and then we'll start building and doing that. So I think that's as much forethought as we need. There's obviously, you can see there's quite a bit of stuff to look over and think about and do. But again, don't go too much in depth. We've done enough thinking that we know the general idea now. We want to strip this board down, scan it in. This connector on the back's no either. It's just an FPC connector, old school style. We can 100% find that, no problem. So we don't even need to think about that side. we'd want to scan it in, then draw the PCB outline, and then start laying out things like, well, we probably then make the schematic next for the CPU, the RAM, get the overall thing done. There is a schematic for this, but it's terrible. The original schematic is, it's one thing I've wanted to redo for a long while, because the original schematic's so shit. It's basically a hand-drawn piece of paper that is hard to follow. Let me see if I've got it. Yeah, so if we pull this up on screen, you can see this is like the original schematic here, which it looks like it would be a good schematic, but it's not exactly. It doesn't exactly work in a sense, but the board's that simple. We'll probably just follow these pins when we scanned it in and mark them out as part of the process, maybe, like make a nice visual layout. So again, let's not worry too much about that. Type of cash flow, is it worth pre-ordering on website? I'm all right for, I'll quite happily invest in things if I know they're going to sell. I don't need the cash up front so much as I want to make sure I don't just waste money, because there's a lot of things where I'll build. I think I mentioned it the other day. Like, for example, down here, I've got 500 plus of these. These are never going to sell in a million years. A little clean RGB light for the Neo Geo AES. Well, those machines are like £1,000. I've got 500 of them. There's not that many people that have them. There's not that many people that mod them. We probably do 15, maybe 20 a year. So I've got, 25 years of stock, basically. So that's a project I made. I'm never going to see return on, but I just wanted to make it for myself. Similar to this, I'd go to town and make stuff, but I learned that if you do that for everything, you run out of money, and you're making stuff that you've got stock of forever. So we just want to be careful that I don't make things that aren't going to sell. Like, I could remake this connector, but again, are we going to sell? I think high-speed injection molding as well, you have to make 20,000, similar to Crystal, strangely enough. I'm sure when I inquired about making the GBA cartridge connector, the minimum order was 20,000. The molds are only like 5,000 to 7,000, but you imagine them 5,000 to 7,000 on a mold. I've got to design it first as well, test it. You've got to make, say you could make 10,000, but I'm sure you have to make 20,000. You make 10,000 of them. In fairness, they're probably going to only cost about 40 pence at that stage to make them. Might not even cost that much, but probably with all the metal in, they'd still be 40p to a pound, maybe. Call it a pound, worst case. You got 10 grand imports. You've probably got another 5 grand in shipping, because the bulk size, maybe not that much, maybe 2 grand in shipping. So you're 12 grand in for that. 17 grand by the time you've designed this. So now you're £17,000 in to make this connector, and you've got to make £17,000 back on just that. So realistically, on a product that isn't that popular, Game Gear, yes, I'll sell them all day long. Game Boy Original, no, I'll never make the money back. Oh, good point. Power light, shit, yeah, we definitely need to do that. So the power light is actually on the front board, LED, but I am pretty sure that comes through this ribbon. We'll remake this front board as well after. So if we can't solve it on the back board, we'll definitely solve it on the front. But if this front board LED turns out to go to a separate pin on here, not just power, we could actually make an analog LED thing here. Yeah, that's something to consider. Minimum, we'd be able to pulse this light and lower the brightness based on battery voltage. If it comes to a separate pin, if this just goes straight to the voltage, there's not much we can do. Does this front board need any power? Yeah, it does, the screen. Yeah, so we'll see. But yeah, power LED. Keep that in mind as we're designing this. We can definitely improve that. Which board is this? This is the Game Boy Original. We're remaking at the minute. Can the clean power board be built onto the same board? Yeah, it can, but I'm going to do that for a pro. So this is for subs to see the whole process and be made, and this will be a RePCB core. I'll make a pro where it's going to have we've already figured out we're going to have a Raspberry Pi on here controlling game load, boot screens, USB interface. I'll integrate the clean power board on. I'll probably potentially just make it into the clean screen at the same time, just have one mega RePCB board. So I'm about to make a clean screen for this. I might not I couldn't bother. I could say, screw it, if you want the clean screen, you're having the RePCB combo, and it comes with everything, and you have to transfer a CPU on, and then you get everything. Or I could make a clean power board first that plugs in. We'll see. But yeah, we can 100% integrate this. You guys can choose to do that, but I'm going to save that bit for my own board because I sell this, and this is quite a popular seller, like my clean power board. I don't want to necessarily show that being integrated into here straight away because I'll lose even more money. You know, it's a good seller for me. Right, so that's enough forethought. So the first steps you want to do is strip this board down and scan it in. So being close to Christmas, I'll probably just strip this down and then we'll carry on after Christmas because I've got a lot of stuff to do. But we can start stripping this down now. We'll see where we get with this. Any questions as well, feel free to ask now. I'm just going to pretty much start stripping this board and then we're done. And then everybody should get off and enjoy Christmas, basically. And then we'll all catch up after Christmas. I'm sure I'll be streaming probably the day after Christmas. Because by the time I've sat there for a few hours, I'll want to do something, even though it's not much. A little board holder. I'm not overly concerned about melting this one because I've got plenty. I just want the PCB, so I'll do this. Try to get that over the edge here. There we go. I'm just going to kind of leave that board there and go for removing a load of components. Power light on the AES. Oh yeah, the lack of one. Yeah, that's a good reason to get the clean light for the reset button, if nothing else as well, to be honest. Yeah, that Amiga. It's I think the problem is if something random's gone on and it's not working on the USB thing, it's like where it's one of them. You want to focus on where you started doing stuff because that's the logical thing. That something you did might have caused it, but it might be complete coincidence. And oh, there you go. There's a cat blowing up. Wow, that's a. Try and move out the way. I've got a bad throat as it is. I must have aimed the hot air then at the cap more than the actual board. They normally go bang. That was quite a delicate blow up. Oh yeah, so on the Amiga, did you try the GoTech? Did you manage to get, like, you know, select a file on the GoTech and see if that track moves or not? It's actually a shit angle, all you see is my hand. So we do like a different angle. Let me see if that's not going to swing over without hitting that. Let me see if I can get a slightly better angle than just looking at my hand. So with being left-handed and the camera being on the left, you kind of just see. You don't see much. Yeah, let me try and do it right-handed for the sake of at least just seeing something other than my hand. Otherwise, I'm just going to sit and watch my hand taking stuff off. Quick question regarding UV printing game shells. Is that on the reverse of the shell? No. So at the minute, it's just on the front. Technically, I could print on the back. It's just not popular enough to invest in the time to make the template and list it on the website and stuff. I do have, though, a new printer coming. A UV direct-to-film sticker printer. So I stuck it on, for example, here, some sample stickers before I brought the machine. That's Los Angeles Lakers. This is UV direct-to-film. So these are transparent stickers, flexible but hard, completely resistant to people wiping it with cleaning fluids and knackering our normal stickers. Perfect for things like decals, like the PlayStation decals, the Dreamcast logos, sticking it inside of SP shells. So they're better than normal stickers. They're like almost gel stickers in a way. Very durable. So I've got that machine coming from China. It's on a boat at the minute. It's going to take 3 months to get here, I think. And then I'll make the software to be able, so people that can't design or don't have Photoshop or Affinity can still design these new stickers, basically. Why is this cat not coming out? Let's go over to the top. It's just bent legs again. So the key I want to do on this as well, like I say, don't really care about the components on this one. I just want to preserve, in fact, why don't we just do all from the top for now. I just want to preserve the PCB, that's the important thing on this, because we want to scan this PCB in. So don't care about these components going bang or pop or melting so much. I'm going to try and not do it, but that's not the goal of stripping this down. The goal of this is just keeping the circuit board from being damaged if we can. So we get a nice scan. So you selected the game, nothing happened. So it stays on T0, basically, I presume you mean for that then. As in, like, literally nothing happens. If so, then you're definitely not getting... it's either not booting... Oh, no, it's booting up far enough, isn't it? Yeah. Because if you get into the purple screen and it's, you know, but it's then not triggering track 0 to move, that is definitely... that's the Gary pin for enabling the motor or seeing the motor go low. I don't know what pin it is, you see, top of my head. But there's one of the pins on the Gary or on the floppy that goes low when there's a disc inserted, and that goes back to the Gary, I'm pretty sure, to say if there's a disc inserted. You might want to at least start with that, just checking that pin for continuity, or even just checking the entire thing for continuity from the Gary to the CIA chip that's near the floppy. See, I like surface mount boards, they take seconds to strip. This being all through hole components is a pain in the ass. Jeez. Come on. There we go. Need some better tools for removing through holes. Right, let me try and not melt this DC joint there if I can help it. Probably melt my phone holder. That's probably what's going to happen here. Oh, there we go. Nice and easy. Why aren't you coming out? There we go. It's out. Oh yeah, so the animation. So do you get any animation in terms of when you put the floppy disk in? Does like the floppy disappear, or you mean the animation just sits there as it does showing the floppy disk in? Because it should basically go instantly to just a purple screen when it detects a floppy disk going in. If it's not doing that, then you must have a broken trace. Yeah, I mean, you could have a bad Gary or a bad CIA chip, but it's unlikely if it was working. I'd almost definitely say you've got a broken trace between either the floppy itself, the floppy IDE and the CIA, or from the CIA to the Gary chip. But if you check the schematics, you're looking for somewhat about motor detect or something. I can't. You should be able to find it on Google. Something to do with like, yeah, the switch is melted. We might as well get him off as he is. Something to do with like the disc on a floppy being inserted. It's not an Amiga specific thing. It's literally just how floppies work. There'll be a pin that has something that goes low or high when you insert the floppy disk, basically. Easier for an infrared bed? Maybe, yeah, we could. Well, no, really, because pulling these out, the board's lifting up. So I'm having to pull the legs through because they're bent. So if it was on an infrared board, I wouldn't be able to hold the board and lifting and tugging and stuff. It'd just be moving off the board. Maybe if we clamped it down properly so it doesn't move, then yeah, that'd be easy, but it's not too bad now. We're getting a flow going. There's not that many components on this board. We'll be able to see as well if this ground plane is it bridging grounds or are the grounds there without it, because that's just obviously not needed on our design. A lot of these, I wish I hadn't got rid of that little clamp now above, because it was actually kind of useful to be able to clamp the board. I didn't think it was, well, I needed it for the other cameras, but yeah, the board's pretty toasty. I can just about hold it. Let's try and, yeah, just as we were saying that. Definitely getting hotter. Quick, Jesus, yeah, that's hot. Right, there we go. We just work away like this. Try not to pop another one of these caps in my face. Let's get this connector off. Well, let's get the wheel off because he's the most common to melt. See, I think when you're not trying, I haven't melted anything. Yeah, when you try and be really careful, you normally melt shit. When I don't care, I haven't melted anything yet. Animation the same, yeah. It's something to do with some kind of sense pin, I'd say, then detecting when that flop is inserted, because the GoTech definitely works, so you know it's not the actual drive, it's got to be whatever senses that pin. Off topic goes on, trying to make a fully loaded PSX mods or blah blah blah, but trying to make a large 1 terabyte. Anything, yeah, the SD cards are very sensitive on a lot of the mods. SanDisk Ultras, I think I found worked on the PSX. I know the Amazon didn't work, so the Amazon Extreme or something. So it's just brand of SD cards based on certain mods as well. They tend to be mainly like Dreamcast are the most picky. You're almost definitely just relying on make sure you've got the latest software for the mods. Well, these do not want to come out. And then try different brand SD cards. And the problem with swap these out then. Yeah, the problem with a lot of the mods that use the 1 terabytes, like the higher ones, they basically can't read it or they time out, and it's very dependent on. It's not a fault of the SD card. It's really a fault of the mods not supporting it correctly. Like the SD cards are perfectly valid. They just the code isn't good at reading certain brands. So it could be other things, but it's probably most likely that. Yeah, definitely try the SanDisk first, because I know I sell 1.5 terabyte SanDisks with every PAL PlayStation game out. So if you brought it off the Retro 6 site as a ready-made PlayStation 1 as 1.5 terabyte, that comes with every PAL game ever released. And that's a SanDisk, 1.5 terabyte SanDisk Ultra, I think it is. So I know they work, because I've built quite a few. The only problem with SanDisk is make sure they're genuine. I used to sell them from the factory. I sell stuff from it. Turned out they were fake. One of the things right before I did Retro was I was just selling generic stuff, which I've done before, just like a generic online business for a very short period, maybe a few months. One of the things I sold loads of was SanDisk SD cards. Never even clicked in they were fake myself, because sometimes our factory don't even necessarily get you genuine unless you're asking for it. They presume you mean that you just want standard market goods, if you know what I mean. And in China, clones and fakes are standard unless you specifically say you want to make sure things are original. You can end up with fakes yourself. So we'd sold ridiculous amounts of them. So you can imagine if we've got them, most people that sell SanDisk are selling fakes. So go on Amazon and buy from the SanDisk store to make sure they're actually real. Let's go to this view, because you can't see shit all from that angle. Just watching me again with my hand in the way. Yeah, they really bent these legs in when they were building this board. Nearly there. Let's just hope I haven't burnt the back of this board, so I'm not even really paying attention to the back. Right, cartridge extension port. It's probably that hot, this board now, this will pretty much lift off straight away. And we have, I think, one of the battery springs didn't exist on this board anyway. We'll get this cartridge, this power board connector off. one of the RAM chips, and then battery spring, and it's the big connector. We could do with keeping the big connector because the likelihood is we're going to need him to test the first version at least. So I could do with not melting him. I'd probably use the desolder pump on it maybe. And I probably want to try and get this without too much hot air near that cartridge connector so we don't melt it. There we go. Battery spring and then cartridge connector. Oh, and then this, get this headphone jack thing out the way. It pains me to use KeyCAD as well. I'm not used to Altium, but Altium's a paid thing, and it's the dearest, but I use it for everything. So it's like, obviously, teaching you guys how to do this. I've re-downloaded KeyCAD, and I'm like, oh, it's such an ugly ass interface. Like, obviously, it's free, so you can't complain. It's open source, but I was half tempted to write CAD software before I started this when I looked. But I'm like, nah, I'm just opening up another can of worms for no reason. But I have tried to make the theme as close to Altium as I can get it, because KeyCAD is ugly as shit when it comes to the interface, unfortunately. It's like 20 years out of date. Right, let me just clean this desk up a minute. So we don't need that anymore. We'll keep that, We don't need all these little caps. I've got enough Game Boys we can reference them. We'll keep the power switch, the wheel, the DC jack, 3 main components, extension port, crystal. Amp we don't care about. I'll keep him just in case, but we're going to remake that, and everything else can go. So I'll just use my old trick of masking tape to pick up shit off the desk nice and quick. Good. Got rid of all the shit in pretty much one go. And then the rest can be hoovered. And then this lot can go in a bag. Yeah, the EasyCAD I was using before I paid for Altium again. Definitely nicer interface, but there was a reason, I can't remember why, I wasn't going to use EasyEDA. I looked at them both. I think it's just more, it feels too much like a website. It's not exactly a... I've not got a big bag left. Yeah, there was some reason I looked at using both, but EasyCAD's definitely, EasyEDA is definitely the other option. But we'll go KeyCAD. I think I'll be able to make KeyCAD look pretty okay with a theme. I've already started making a custom theme. So I'm sure. And then once you're used to it, it's not that bad. It's just when you go from Altium to anything else but Altium, you realise how good it is. Yeah, enjoy Christmas. I'll only stripping these 2 bits off, and then I'm off myself. I've got I think I wrapped the presents yesterday. I've got to, what I forgot to do today. I've done a bit of work, but I don't need to now. Oh, I need to wrap up one little bit of work and then I'm done. But mainly I just want to relax and do nothing. That's like what I want to do. I don't want to be working all today. I want to just sit and do nothing. And yeah, definitely for Rusty. I got him that treat wrapped up the other day, the one I brought and showed you the picture of. He loves opening it. He knows the bags with food in at Christmas, like the presents. He'll open our presents up, but he'll sniff which bags have got his food, and he knows, and he'll always like open them first. He's well good at opening presents. I'll have to video him opening the presents, and I'll send it you on Discord. Oh yeah, he's got suits as well. He'll be dressed up later. He'll be dressed up for his Christmas walk later today. Right, so we've got a bag of spares, which I'll obviously put that back on there. I'll obviously get this connector off as well, and this metal plating, and then we'll put that in the bag. Yeah, he's got what's he got? Normally his pumpkin is one of his favourites, big orange pumpkin. He's got a Santa hat. He doesn't like the Santa hat. One of the first things we dressed him up in was a little Santa hat, and he was sulking under the stairs, like proper little man sulk on. That's that off. Now let's get this metal cage off now. Christmas pudding. Yeah, he's had some puddings before, like big brown puddings. I think the one we ended up that used to fit him stopped fitting him. But I don't know if he's still got a pudding somewhere. The missus will get him out anyway if she hasn't already for later today. Oh God, this board, I can't touch it. It's that hot now. I literally can't touch it. Cut that bit off. So that's a load of mess we're going to have to clean up as well, because that's going to get in the way of our scans. Dishwasher, I think, for this. Clear everything off. There we go. Wow, that was hot. Let's have a quick look at where that came off. Ouch. Ooh, hot. Everything's boiling. Yeah, look at the mess that's made on the board. So for scanning, we're going to have to... There's another step I've got to do on this, which is... all I'll do is desolder wick everything and clean this board up, basically, as the steps left. So I'll probably just do that on and off. I may jump back on a stream to do some of it, the clearing up and stuff, but I don't think necessarily you need to see this step. I'll just show you what I'm going to do. It pretty much involves just going around with an iron or whatever mechanism I want to do, and clearing up like all the excess solder. Apparently this iron isn't even melting things. So like this, I'll just go around the board, get all of the excess solder off everywhere, being careful not to, I don't want to like scrape or damage traces. And then I'll clean all this off, this gunk, probably just with heat. Start with the dishwasher maybe first, and then if not, clean it off another way. But basically I'll clear all these holes off, so there's no solder and no gunk. Get this as clean as we can. Obviously I've got to get this off as well. And then we'll scan it in just a flatbed scanner, get a nice high-res image as the goal of that. This I needed to quickly get off as well, didn't I, actually? Desolder pump this. Yeah, the plug. See, that's the other thing with the plugins as well. I kind of contemplated, could I write some keycad plugin to make it more look like Ultium, but again, I don't want to have to spend more time doing work on the thing that we're not, I just want to be able to use the software Oh, wow, this is annoying and rocky. I think I've slightly bent my desolder pump as well, because every time I try and use it, it doesn't want to click back down. It's working all right now. I think that's it for the connector, isn't it? Does that mean that connector pulls out? Yes and no, as usual. So, probably going to have asbestos fingers to get this off. Tilt with that, warm up the pins, because some of the pins mustn't quite be cleared off. So there we go. So you obviously don't want customers having to do that for a start, because that's like, obviously probably made that look a bit easy, but this can take time or melt plastic. That's come off fairly clean, but they don't always. So we definitely want to try and come up with a solution for that, so we can, we don't have to use the original cartridge connector as the goal. So we've got all the bits off now. We've got a flat board that I can just get rid of all the mess on that. So all the solder. We've got all the spares. We can keep all these in one place for now. Need a little tub, maybe. Spare tub up there. If I'm looking for these later on another stream, remind me I've chucked them up here, basically. Because I'll forget where the hell I've put them, and I'll be saying where is them Game Boys. I'll put all the connectory bits up there as well, just out the way, just so we've got we can focus on one thing. So they're officially below the components tub, if I ask where they've gone when I forget tomorrow. Oh yeah, the bloody Game Gear that stopped working. I don't know, what did it even do to get that working again? It just like died, didn't it, and then carried on working. I don't even know what it did. I don't know whether I just I must have shorted something out and then it just recovered after, probably like the game slot maybe. But yeah, I thought that. I was like, typical. I've come on do a video on one thing and magically killed a Game Gear in the middle of it. But luckily it was something temporary. Clean enough, I think. Oh yeah, it's you can play it back to me when I've finished writing chat integration. I could give you the ability to also post a clip on stream if I ask something. That'd be quite cool. Yeah, so you can see this at the minute looks like filthy now. We need to clean this up. So all I'll do, you've seen me, I'll just desolder wick all this area. It takes a while. So I'll either do it, well, I won't be working unless I'm on stream, so I'll probably just stream this one public as well, cleaning this up at some point. Desolder wicking all this, scanning it in, and then chucking that on. Yeah, that looks fairly clean. No rip traces, no nothing. So the idea will be clear all these up, scan it in, super high res, make it public, and then we've got a nice little board we can follow. I'll probably make some, I've already made some software, but I'll probably improve it. So you can just use the website to look at these images and toggle between the layers. I don't think we need to sand this down and see. There's literally a 2-layer board and you can see where they go. There's no reason to sand this down to copper. We'll just clear it up, basically. So yeah, I think that's it for now, with it being, like I say, Christmas, and I've got to go drop presents off and chill and see Rusty and things. Don't want to do too much. But I think this will be good for the subs. I think making something that's actually exciting and, you know, at the end result is going to be something you'll genuinely use, and you could, like I say, sell if you wanted. We'll be selling it, obviously. But yeah, it's going to be a nice introduction to hardware design. You'll learn a ton doing it. And then you'll probably end up making more hardware after that. So hopefully everybody has a good Christmas, and I'm sure I'll be on. I won't be on tomorrow, I doubt. But when I get a bit of relaxing in, and then I fancy just jumping on, eating through a bit of work, I'll be on and off over Christmas for sure. And then you guys can show me what you've had for Christmas. Turkey sarnie while streaming. Yeah, probably will be. I've got some Wagyu. I'm doing some Wagyu topside beef and a turkey, obviously. And then I'm not sure what else. So it's going to be probably beef sandwiches and turkey sandwiches for days after to finish it all off. And there's that. Right, I will catch everybody over Christmas, I'm sure. Thanks everybody for joining in, and spread the word for get more people on the subs as we work through this. Hopefully this will be like a nice little teaser video as well, because this is open to the public in a sense, so this might encourage more people to sub. We've got 55, that's pretty good for doing it for what? Probably a couple of months now I've been streaming at most, I'd say. So that's pretty nice. And then we've got a goal to be pretty cool to hit 100 sub goal. What we're going to do for the 100 sub goal is the question. We'll have to have a think on how we celebrate that. And enjoy Christmas, guys, and I will see you probably maybe tomorrow night. If I've had enough relaxing. No, I don't think so. Probably Boxing Day I'll be back on.